tell them a little bit about who you are and why you are here today to give them advice about how to love themselves.
I'm here to just let you guys know that you're worth it. A lot of you guys may know me. I did Facebook Live, Ask Auntie Nella on Facebook. My goal is always to, instill self-worth into women. My goal is always to try and teach women that you're worth it. Never give validation to get validation from a man. Always validation. Always get validation from yourself and other women.
I'm here today to give a male's perspective, and yeah. You say yay, I'm saying, oh man, what am I getting myself into? But it's important that black women have self-respect, and it's personal to me because I was raised by black women, one, and two, I have daughters. And if my daughters can't have self-respect for themselves, that's going to make my job a lot tougher for them. So I do everything that I can to empower black women and black males to live the best life that they can.
So I'm Dr. Joy Lewis. You can finally call me Dr. Joy, and just really honored to get to be here. I am a speaker, an author, a business owner, and I'm just honored to get to be here today to talk with you all some about the content of my new book, which is called Healing, the Act of Radical Self-Care. And my work is I really am on a mission to get healing in the hands of anyone, anywhere, right? So we can just get to be free about whatever might be blocking us, and to just know, like my two fellow panelists said, that you're worth it. Actually, you are. You're just amazing beyond belief, and I hope that whenever we finish here, that you guys remember that, that you're amazing beyond belief, just exactly where you are. So we're excited to get into the conversation.
What does self-love mean? Because we can talk about loving ourselves all day long, but do we even know what that means?
Self-love means taking care of yourself. It's important. I think a lot of times we never take care of ourselves. We're, as mothers, as daughters, as sisters, we tend to not take care of ourselves. We tend to leave out ourselves. One of the things I had to learn is I'm always a person that loves to take care of everybody else. I love to take care. I'm a caregiver. I love to take care of everybody else. It was always important for me to be able to take care of my sisters, to take care of my husband, to take care of my kids. I never thought about taking care of Trinella until one day I had to sit down and look in the mirror and say, you know what, Trinella, it's time to take care of you. It's important for me to take care of me. My family is going to be okay. My sisters are going to be okay. It's time to take time for me. Don't ever feel guilty. Don't ever feel guilty to take care of you. Because when you start to neglect you, you're not taking care of you. You're hurting you. You can't give yourself to somebody else if you're not taking care of you.
Where would you suggest one starts if they want to prioritize their healing and self-care?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. The place that I always encourage folks to start is just to start really small, right? Because, it's still kind of the beginning of the year. How many of us have resolutions? Y'all know y'all have resolutions, right? And we might still be holding on to them, but maybe not, right? And that's okay. I really like to encourage folks to just start with something really small. My grandmother said, it's the small foxes that destroy the vine, right? It's those little bitty things. And so I just encourage you first, to one of the places that I talk about is having a morning ritual. How many of you have a morning ritual? Yeah, we all have one. Even if it may not be the one we want, we have one. Because we're doing some ritual just means we're doing it every day, right? We're doing something every day. So that's a place we got to get up in the morning and we can begin to start with just saying, what do I do when I first wake up? I know when I first wake up, somebody is always calling a committee meeting, right? It's always a committee meeting going on in my head, right? I go, who called that meeting? right? And then they got a whole agenda of all these things they're trying to get in your head. And so what I have to do to combat that is that I start with meditation, right? And you know, when you think about meditation, sometimes it's like, oh, you gotta be quiet, it has to be all these things. It doesn't, you know, just do a simple thing. You take your right hand and just put it over your heart. Come on, y'all. Take your right hand and put it over your heart. You have so much healing power in your own hand, right? So if you're feeling anxious or something that's happened, you can just take your hand and put it over your heart, and what's going to start happening is your whole central nervous system is going to start to calm down. You can just feel that, right? And so when I get up in the morning, you can just start by just putting your hand there. And then just saying to yourself, I am amazing, awesome, and brilliant. Let's try that. What are we? Amazing, awesome, and brilliant. Can you imagine if you just start your day with your hand? You're just like, let me just put that out there, right? I'm amazing, awesome, and brilliant. And just starting with those little things, you can begin to shift. And then if you are going throughout the day and something, you know, somebody might be working your nerves sometimes, just take your hand and put it over your heart. They don't even know what you're doing, right? Just be like, you know, and it's going to be better for everybody involved.
I think your book talks about self-care, particularly where it's a problem for black women. Why is it a problem for black women particularly? Why is that?
And I want to make a distinction that it may be a problem for us, but we are not the problem, right? So I want to make sure that we clear that up. So it might be a problem for us, but we are not the problem, right? Part of it is that it's a setup, y'all, right? It's a setup. So basically, you know, like my sister said, we have been conditioned to take care of everyone else, right? And it is actually a part of the way that systemic oppression is set up, particularly around capitalism and also around racism, right? And sexism is set up so we can, it's like the system benefits if we are not well, right? If we don't take care of ourselves, the system benefits. And so, you know, what ways do they benefit? Well, first of all, if we're not doing well, you know, then we got to spend money to, you know, go to the hospital or the doctor or whatever, and we are spending money trying to fill the void, right, for whatever is not feeling proper. And so the thing is that, you know, we have to put on our own mask first, right, before we start trying to assist other people. But it's just been a condition, and that we are also taught to think that if we are taking care of ourselves, that we're being selfish. How many folks? Come on, y'all. Y'all know we can be like, I feel selfish. But you know what? I actually encourage you to be selfish. That's not a problem. It really is about when we're self-centered, right? So there's a difference between, it's not that it's just about you. It's just that it's not only about you, right? But it gets to start with you. So basically, it's just that it's been a setup. When you realize you've been in a setup, then you be like, wait a minute, this is setup. This is, you know. So now that we know, then we can actually begin to interrupt that, right? And say, and you know what? You will have more to give those loved ones in your life if you first give to yourself, right? So it's not gonna feel, people gonna feel some kind of way. What you mean you can't do X, Y, and Z? What you mean you can't cook? What? But they'll be all right, you know, and they'll be okay. They might feel some kind of way, but it's okay. And there's a difference between taking care of somebody and caring about them. So it's good to care about people, it's good to love people, but we don't have to do their work, right? And part of what the last thing I'll say is part of what I had to figure out, because I have a pull around codependency, want to take care of people, and I had to remember that there is a God and it is not me.
All right.
And he don't need an assistant. Although I keep applying for the job. But he's like, I'm good. And then I'm never gonna need anybody to fill that position. So the same God that looks over me looks over them, so I can let that go.
And you look like you're ready to answer the question. I'll give you one that's not a prepared one that I was thinking about. Because, you know, I think, and this, I can't get this R. Kelly thing off my head for some reason, because they've been talking about it in media.
Oh, you trying to set me up.
I'm setting you up.
Go straight to R. Kelly. Oh.
Why do we hold on to people? This is one of the girls that was saying that. Why do we hold on to people? Now, this is because I feel like she doesn't love herself.
Yep.
So I want you to help us to understand this. Why do we hold on to people so deep down when we are so unhappy with them?
Yes, great question. From my experience as a therapist, because I've had plenty of clients who are in these situations, they'll come to me for couples counseling, but the other half doesn't show up. And one thing that ends up happening, and what I've noticed, is that people have a fear for what's going to happen next. Even when they're in a traumatic situation or a situation that has a lot of toxic stress, you know, the fear of not knowing what my life is going to be like without this person and not knowing what's going to be the next step for me keeps people stuck where they're at. And people are more likely to stay in an area that they know that is uncomfortable than to go to an area that they don't know anything about, that may be liberating for them. You know, one of the sayings, another saying that I haven't dropped a lot of sayings, is there's no growth in the comfort zone and there's no comfort in the growth zone. And many people are afraid to grow, because that fear of what happens next can keep us shackled and keep us stuck where we're at. I think self-love has a huge play in that, because in order to love yourself, you want to protect yourself. And you don't want to keep yourself stuck in any situation that's causing any harm to you. And unfortunately, a lot of people stay in there because they feel like they're going to change somebody. Or just let time heal old wounds. And time doesn't heal old wounds. Actions do. And unfortunately, a lot of us are afraid to take the next steps and make the actions that are necessary to change our outcomes.
And so, and you did say something, this is probably going into a counseling session that I'm not in right now. Nor you probably want to try to go down there. But you said, if one person shows up and I love myself, or I don't rather love myself,
Yep.
so I'm trying to fix my husband. We're talking about mostly women here today.
Yep.
And he don't want to come, because usually that's who don't want to come.
Yep.
Then where do we go? I mean, do we keep coming to see Brandon, hoping Brandon's got that magical wand that's going to make it happen through us? Or what do we do, Brandon?
So it depends on what your desired outcome is. If you want to stay with your husband or your partner, and you want to stay with this person, and they don't want to necessarily stay with you, or they're not showing that they want to stay with you, then my question is for the person is this the best opportunity or the best situation for you to be in? And that's a tough question for people to answer, because there's, you know, usually there's kids involved, there's finances involved, there's resources, houses, things like that, cars, and to take that next step is difficult. So it depends. Sometimes, yes, you need to figure out how do you fix yourself, and maybe that's one of the issues in the relationship. But it's hard to do that when you're the only one that's working on yourself. And usually the option is, how do you figure out a way to remove yourself from that, you know, that kind of traumatic relationship that you're in.
Why do we allow ourselves, and I think it's not so much why do we, because we kind of know we don't love ourselves, but how can we fix ourselves the best way you can with answering this question? Allow ourselves to be belittled and mistreated. So I think today what I'm hoping we can do, and I know we're not in a session that takes Brandon months to probably figure something out.
Yeah.
But how can we get the women started down that path to not be mistreated, panel? How can we make them, what little step can they take to feel good when they leave here today, that they can at least start down the path of some of these questions? Y'all now know my what's the answer to that one.
Wait,
Another trick question. Okay, so the question is, why do we allow ourselves to be belittled and mistreated? And then what I was hoping with the answer, that there may be, here's some steps you can start to take to no longer allow yourself to be mistreated or belittled. Just a step.
I think, so the question is, why do people allow themselves to be mistreated and belittled? I'm gonna say, I think a lot of that happens because, I'm gonna say, maybe past, maybe from childhood, or things they may have seen from parents, I'm just gonna say from maybe childhood hurts or parents, they may have seen it that way. And why do they stay in it? I think they stay in it because they think that they could fix that person or change that person, or hoping that they could fix that person or change that person. And a way to fix it is either, I don't think you can fix that person. I think you're hoping you can fix that person. You can't fix a person. That person needs to change for themselves. There's no way you can fix somebody. That person has to want to change for themselves. You need to either decide that you're gonna leave or they're gonna want to change. You can't fix a person. A person has to want to change and fix themselves, plain and simple.
I agree with Trinella. I think it has to do with, sometimes it has to do with your childhood traumas and the things that you experienced growing up. But other times I think it's the fact that we don't know any better. And sometimes we are in situations and we don't even realize that they're hurtful for us. And one thing that I've seen with a lot of black women that I come in contact with, friends of mine, people in my family, is black women have been conditioned to put their feelings last. Take care of everybody else's, and then your feelings come in play. And when you've been conditioned to be like that, then you won't notice when you're being manipulated or treated bad. Because it's like, well, I gotta make sure I'm taking care of everybody else in my circle first anyway. And that's a very stressful place to be in. When I look at statistics of black women's health, just stress-related things, we are always 1 and 2 on the list. 1 and 2 for everything that's stress-related. And I think that has to do with a lot of historical trauma that we go through. Because black women have literally put not just the community on the back, but the existence of our future generations on their backs. When do black women have an opportunity to heal from those things? Places like this offer that opportunity, but how many spaces do you have like this outside of, sister spokes? Not a lot. We have our sister circles and our friends, but they have just as much stress as you do, right? And it's hard to deal with all that in one. So, one of the solutions I think is really creating these healing spaces for you, and that's a good segue into Dr. Joe. There you go. Yes.
Okay, now, this is going to be probably right back with Brandon. I'll look at you because you're there. Let me just. I have decided to stay in a toxic marriage. How do I cultivate joy in the midst of a storm?
Yes.
Wow. Well, I think that one of the most important things about that statement is the fact that we talk about love, talking about loving ourselves or being in any kind of relationship. Love is a decision. It's not, we talk about it being a feeling. It's a decision, right? And so whenever I am choosing, what am I choosing? It's like, again, just from a faith perspective, it says, I set before you life and death, blessings and curses, you choose. And God He doesn't even make us choose, right? You get to choose what you want to do. And so you choose. So are you going to choose life or are you going to choose death? And they cannot coexist, right? And so we have to just get real. So if I'm choosing to be, if you're choosing to be in a toxic relationship, but then you want to cultivate joy, that's not realistic. So that's just not realistic. So we have to get honest. So what you actually are deciding to do is to be in a situation that is not healthy for you. So the bigger piece around that, and that's not about like, that's, just to be really clear, whoever it is, whoever wrote this, to just say, you know what, dear one, you are worth so much more than that, right? Yes. And whoever told you something different, that is a lie. Yes. And that we get to be around folks and get some different kinds of things in our heads so you can know. You deserve more than that. It has nothing to do with the other person. That's their thing. But you deserve to not be in any kind of toxicity. Why? Right? So if we're going to be able to work it out, it doesn't start with that person. It starts with you loving yourself and saying, what is standing in my way? What is it that, and actually I don't even want you to spend a whole lot of time on what it is. Yeah. Actually, let me just be clear. What are we going to do? We want to move forward. I don't even want you to get down in that spiral, because that's not going to be helpful. it's like whatever it is, but it's more of saying like, hey, I am worth it, I am amazing, I'm awesome and brilliant. How can I get that in my head? And as we continue, and then whenever you start loving yourself, that toxicity stuff gonna move out your way because, darkness just can't be around light. It just can't. It's just not gonna work, right? And so as you begin to show up, so I'm just saying, I want to be a truth teller, and I don't believe in telling people something just that they want to hear. That's not going to work good. That ain't going to work.
What Dr. Joy said, another thing that I teach my daughters is this principle I call first time, last time. And we talk about doing actions. The first time you spot something that doesn't feel comfortable with you, make that the last time you experience it, no matter who you're dealing with. So first time, last time.
That's good.
I'm not quite clear on how to address this, but I kind of have an idea of what they're asking. So they're saying you as an African-American therapist in the African-American community, dealing with trauma and healing, how much of the spiritual life plays a role in that?
That's a good question. I think it plays a significant role, and it plays a different role for different people. We all have our different ways of approaching spirituality, and whatever your way is the best way to introduce that into your healing practices. One thing that I try to steer people away from when I talk about healing is thinking of healing as this destination. Like you need to be healed. And we get a lot of that from our spiritual guidance principles. But healing is a journey. And one of the things that I have to do is make sure that my spirituality is right next to me as I continue to move forward on that journey. So that's what I would say. Whatever spiritual practice, belief you have, it should be right next to you as you go on your journey of healing.
Okay, so thank you.
Yeah.
And so this leads me right into the next question, which you touched right on, Brandon. Is there any way, and certainly both you ladies there on the panel, go ahead and jump in on this one as well. Is there any way to heal or get over from a toxic relationship when there's a child involved?
There is a way to get over it, but one of the things I will say is you have to first heal yourself to make sure that you're not passing that on to your kid. One of the things I find that people tend to do is if they don't heal themselves, they tend to take that bitterness and pass it on to their kids. If you have not healed yourself, you tend to pass it on to your kids. So if you've not healed yourself, you're going to pass it on to your kids. And when you pass that bitterness on to your kids, then the cycle continues to happen. So healing yourself first allows you to heal your kids.
Okay, so don't pass the mic, because I want everybody that takes that mic to answer this question.
Okay.
So what's one step I can do, just one, that I can start to begin to get over that person? Because I'm looking at that kid every day. Yes, that does transfer, especially if they look. My grandson looks and walks and talks just like his daddy. So thank God my daughter and my son-in-law have a great relationship. But if that were the case where they didn't, then that kid's going to suffer. How do we heal ourselves? What steps do we take? Because one of the important things, and I'm going to keep drilling this down because I know it's easy for us to have this conversation and we only got an hour, but I want to make sure that everybody takes a little bit home today. So how can we make sure that they at least take that first step so they don't look at that kid and that they can still love that kid's dad to the point of loving him because he's the kid's dad and take that other part away?
Plain and simple, forgiveness. I had to forgive. You have to forgive. If you don't forgive that person, one of the things I had to learn is forgiveness. I had to learn to forgive. And what I had to do is I had to forgive from myself. I had to forgive from myself. Because if I walked around life saying, you know what, I hate him, or, I can't stand him, I can't stand the sight of him, then I walked around with the shackles on me, the weight on me. I had to forgive for me. I didn't care if he didn't forgive me or she didn't forgive me. I had to forgive for me. I had to forgive for me. Because if I didn't forgive for me, then I'm going to continue to pass the bitterness on to my kids. So I had to forgive for me.
And to follow up on forgiveness, And forgiveness is not just about trying to forget things. I think we get caught in that a lot. Forgiveness is really about learning from the situation and choosing better actions moving forward. And that's going to be a huge part of this type of situation. The other thing I would say is do not use the kids as pawns or weapons. Do not weaponize your kids when you split up with your partner. Because your kids see that and they start to resent you and have certain types of feelings towards you as well. And not only do you have a strained relationship with the former parent of your child, but now you have issues with your children as well. So be careful doing that.
You know, one of the things that I would like to make sure that we get is that healing, as Brandon said, is not a destination, right? It's not a destination. It's a practice, right? So it's actually a practice, and it's something that we have to show up for every day. So I believe that there are certain practices that will be good for us to do more of in our life to help us to get free. So how often do you think that we should cry? What do y'all think? Just around something. Anytime you feel like it, definitely. How often? What are some like time periods? What y'all think?
Once a week.
Once a week. What else? Y'all saying something? I can't hear you. What you saying?
Once a day?
Once a day. You know, so I bring that up particularly for us as Black women who often don't take the time to show our feelings and to cry. You need to cry at least every day, y'all. Oh, at least every day. Okay, so check it out. Listen. At least every day. And I don't mean that little cute cry. I'm talking about like the ugly cry, y'all. You know what I mean? Like I triple, double dog dare you to cry like that and not feel better. And what does this have to do? What does this have to do with you know, you got this child in your house, you know, you broke up with your partner, you know, that's not, how do you deal with it? It's heartbreaking, right? Those things are heartbreaking, and we cannot just keep trying to stuff things, act like we don't, because it's not, if we don't take the time to actually get our emotions out, we're not being human. We are not being connected to our humanity. And particularly as Black women, you know, we're either people want us to be superhuman or subhuman, right? But never human, right? And so getting out and having a range of emotions. And here's the thing. Joy and pain run from the same faucet, y'all. And so if you try to cut off and not pay attention to that pain, right, you also are cutting off your joy, right? So we got to be able to hold both. So it's a practice, and what you're learning to do when you do that is that you're cultivating the ability to be able to hold contradictions. I can love this person as my child's parent, right, and want the best for them, because if their life is going well, that's going to help my child, right? But I can also not be confused, right? That's that relationship. This did not work out, okay? Love and light, and let me be able to do what I need to do. But what's going to help me do that is cultivating being able to get my emotions out and not stuffing that down. So I'm all about the Cry Every Day Club. I can't wait to hear from y'all on that.
But do you say, so like when you say that, so you saying like, because sometimes I cry from being happy, so tears of joy.
Oh, both. It's a range of emotions.
Right.
The sister said was like that she does cry sometimes every day, but sometimes it's also tears of joy. And is that okay? I'm like, yeah, absolutely, because it really is about a range of emotion. And the more that you are, Rumi has this quote, it says, perhaps your heart keeps breaking so it will stay open, right? So, you know, let's let our heart break wide open. There's a difference between having a break open and a breakdown. And if you don't let that stuff out, you're going to have a breakdown. I believe that the daily cry going to help you not be in depression. Right? Because part of it is us trying to like stuff down those emotions, right? Now, you know, depression, particularly clinical depression, is very, very serious, right? So this isn't about just like I'm having a bad day, right? There are some other pieces. I'll leave that to my brother Brandon, but there's some other pieces about that. But I am saying that being able to allow yourself to cultivate all different kinds of emotions is going to help you to be in a better emotional health, right? But if you're trying to pretend, because then we're just pretending, y'all, right? Mm-hmm. How are you? Fine? Not really. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not fine. And I'm needing to take a minute. And we can, one of the things that I teach is like having you to be able to have someone to listen to you, right? Not give advice. Because you know what? People know, for the most part, you are brilliant. You know what you need to do. It's just some stuff that's blocked up. But a lot of it has to do with the quality of the listener, right? But being able to listen to you and to remember that you're amazing, awesome, and brilliant in the process. You know what I'm saying? It's like, can you listen to me for a minute? And also remember that I'm amazing, awesome, and brilliant, because I might forget. But you'll be able to get that stuff up and out. And I'm telling y'all, it's some of the best medicine if we can. Because you know what? Back in the day, we used to get together and gather, right? You talk about women, this is as old as they come. We get together, you know, I think about my grandmother sitting at the table with her friends, and you know, they was working it out. And they may have come in feeling some kind of way, but when they get ready to leave, your spirits are uplifted. We have to do that, right?
Well, then that brings me, Dr. Joy, to a question. I wasn't going to leave it. I like the segues into things. So the question here was, and it's a 3-point question, is there any women's support or motivational group that are local? Because if we're going to want to keep doing this kind of thing, we need to know where to go. Women, is there any women's empowerment groups that are out there? And then the third one is any more social events like Sister Spokesman?
Sure, so there are a couple of things. So every second Sunday of the month at Heritage Tea House in St. Paul, I facilitate self-care Sundays. So from 1 to 3, and so we'd love to see you all come there. It's free, just come on and we just work it out. You know, like this, you get some tea, grab some stuff, and we just talk through different issues that are happening. I am trying to think offhand of some other public spaces, and they may come to me. Also, I have a space online called the Radical Self-Care University, which is you can just go to Facebook. It's free. You can join there, and there are opportunities that get together and do self-care live feeds. We have some private group stuff that is happening, and there'll be more and more things. So, and also to be able to have folks, I also often host sister circles. And so if you get into, if you go to Joy Unlimited, I have some cards, we can make sure that you get connected to that. And to be able to encourage folks to do some sister circles around your kitchen table, y'all, right? And get some stuff. Y'all having it already. We just need to just make it a priority and practice, and it will shift a lot of things.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll start doing Ask Santinella again. I do marriage. I've been married for 27 years. Me and my husband. I do some Ask Santinella things on Monday nights. I'll be starting that in February. I'm starting every Monday night. I'll do that. I do single couples as well. You guys can join. I have cards at my table as well. So if you guys want to grab some of my cards and come in my groups, it's a private group, but you can just grab some cards from my table and log on to my Ask Santinella. Go ahead.
And with that being said, now you got, because I can come back to that question.
Okay.
That definitely, if you know, again, I think I mentioned early on that we own a newspaper that we run, and so we want to make sure that that's your source of getting your information.
Yep.
So if any of these events are free,
yep,
we want to make sure that you let Paige, is the person that handles all that, know about these events. You can email them to her. We will definitely put them in our calendar. We got a very an active calendar that keeps people involved with what's going on. We want to grow it, so when you know of things like that are going on, women's groups, want to publish anything that's free on our website. Now, that doesn't omit, because it ain't free, they can't, that's advertising, and you talk to me. So, question I had though is, if you know better, why don't you do better? I mean, what helps you to do better? Because you always say, well, you know better than to do that. But how can you help somebody that does know better, but cannot figure out how to do better? How can they love themselves enough to begin to do better when you know better?
That's a tough question, because I think, like, in order, if you know better to do better, it has to be the person. The person, it's kind of difficult, because I just said I was talking to somebody at the table who sits next to me, and I said, you know, this generation. The tough part is, that's a tough question to answer, because if you know better, you should be doing better. I think it's the person. The person has to know better. You have to deep down, you have to dig deep down within yourself. And if you know better, you have to want to do better. You have to check yourself. You have to cold check yourself and say, you know what, I made a mistake yesterday. I have to do better today. I have to make that decision.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I guess the thing that I would add, again, to remind us that healing is a practice. It's a practice, and it's not really about willpower, right? That we cannot think our way into right action. We have to act our way into right thinking, right? So, you know, we think about it, and it's not gonna make it happen. It's not magic, but it requires action. I also want to really be clear that, for the most part, it's not your healing. Although you have to take responsibility for it, it's not just about you as an individual. That you need who's around you. You know. You need a squad, like a for real squad. And if you have a squad and you still in a bunch of mess, you probably need to look at that. Who are you having around you, right? Because you want people who are going to love you and tell you the truth, right? And be like, sister, I love you. Come on, we got to do better. And because you're going to rise based on the folks who are around you, right? So you start checking that. And maybe I need to be seeing who am I around? So it is not an individual thing. It's a we program, y'all. You need a we, right? And so who is your we? And making sure you have a squad.
There is a support group, Self-Care Free, meets every third Saturday on the north side, right where we're at, 1156 Aldrich Avenue North. That's 1156 Aldrich Avenue North. It's from 10 to 12. Free food. All of us meet there when on the third Saturday. Seriously, that is something that you can go to. Brandon, you want to add something? No? Okay, so we're going to get this question, and then we're going to actually, we got one more question back there, and then I'm going to ask the black therapist. I don't know who that is. Where can we find them? Here's one right here.
Black therapists are difficult to find. Black male therapists are unicorns. We almost don't even exist. You can find, there's two actual organizations that we have locally. The Association for Black Psychologists, and we have the Association of Black Social Workers. I forgot my cards, of course, but I can leave my contact information, so if anybody wants any information on either one of those groups, I can get you directly connected. A couple of organizations to keep in mind that have black therapists. Kente Circle over South Minneapolis is right across the street from Spokesman. All right, Kente Circle is one. Dr. Bravada, Bracken's Psychological Consulting. Right here at North Point, we have several black therapists as well. Who am I forgetting? Empowered. Yep, Reba Peoples. Reba's all over the place. She's everywhere. Reba Peoples is another person who does a lot of work as well. If you have children and you live in St. Paul or Ramsey County, Wilder Foundation has a program called the Kofi program. They have several black psychologists there who work in that program. A lot of us have our own independent things. So if you want to get connected, feel free to reach out to me. I can point you in the right direction. You can find me on all social media platforms. Just search Brandon Jones and you should be able to find me. Yeah, I think that's a good enough resource.
That's a good, and we'll also try to, list some of these resources on our website. So Brandon, you'll send me some of them as you move forward.
Yep.
I want to know, how do you get across with your grown children that know every darn thing? my husband cracks me up. He tells my grandkids, he says, wait a minute, hold up, just tell me what you don't know. Because you know everything. So how do you get through to them? And their grown is in 23, 24, 25.
When you mean how do you get across to them?
How do you get through to them? Probably, but I'm guessing across. Through.
I guess me with I got a 31 and a 26-year-old, so I guess to get across to them, I pretty much tell them what I tell them, and you just tell them what you tell them, and let them fall where they may, because they're going to take what you're going to tell them or not. That's all you can do. You can just tell them what you're going to tell them, and they take it, and if they take it, they take it. That's all you can do.
I just say pray for them.
That's all you can do.
Because once we get past the childbearing age, that's when we had a shot at it. And if we missed it then they gotta just tough love at that point. I mean,
yeah, you can tell them what you tell them.
Yeah, it's too hard then. So
they're gonna hit their heads regardless.
Yeah, you gotta catch them. That baby now. Catch them when they're 4 and 5. And when they get to be 18, write them a check and tell them good luck in their new apartment if they ain't listening. And that's all you do. Because you raised them. But I'm sorry, I'm not on the panel. They want y'all to answer that question.
They should crack that down regardless.
Yeah, I think life and experience sometimes is the best teacher.
Yeah,
and
it is.
Sometimes you gotta let your failures be lessons and your losses be blessings. And sometimes that's the way that people have to learn, unfortunately.
Brandon, you can start. You got the mic in your hand, my brother.
Sure.
I want you to send these sisters home this afternoon. Y'all ain't leaving right yet. I'm just giving you some food for thought. Okay, we still got a little bit of afternoon to go. But I want you to send them home with how they can begin. What's that first step that we can take to love ourselves from the inside?
Yeah, I'm going to end the same way I started. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to stop looking out the window, look in the mirror, and ask yourself the question, do I deserve better? And that answer should be yes. And the second question is, what do I need to do to get to that place where betterness is? That's it. And it doesn't have to be with a professional like myself. You don't have to read 8,000 self-help books. It really just comes down to you making a decision to better your life. But do get Dr. Joy's book.
I'm going to encourage everyone, a really practical step is that if you don't have this, make an appointment with you. Yes. Right? I want you to have a protected time that's for you. And to put it in your calendar, y'all. Put it down. And don't schedule anything over that. Now, here's the thing. You might say, but I don't know I don't know what I'm going to do. That's okay. You can spend that time asking yourself that. What is it that I actually like? Sitting and prioritizing yourself, which actually goes to that other question, was about how do you get through to your kids? The way you get through to anybody is actually just take care of yourself. That's right. They'll get it, right? Because they'll see that you have put yourself first. And then so it may seem like, and you might I don't have time for that. But if there are other people in your life who need things, I know y'all be making time for it. And so that would be the biggest gift. There is nobody more important than you. There's nobody more important than you. Well, what about my kids? There's nobody that's more important than you. So I will be back in that room over there. Y'all can come show me y'all appointment that y'all put for yourself. I want to see it. Screenshot it. Okay.
Start to love you. refill yourself. Take a glass, start to refill yourself. You cannot love somebody else until you get that glass back filled.
Yes. That makes you happy,
Yep.
that makes you feel good, not food, don't let that be food.
Wow.
Because that's secondary.
No,
But
man.
something mentally that makes you feel good.
Yep.
That's where you're going to start. Take that mental feeling that makes you feel good for you. There ain't nobody else. Just think about it for 1 minute and say, you know what, my kids, okay, yeah, they're there, they'll be there. My husband, okay, my boyfriend, whatever. But right now, let me just close my eyes and think about Tracy. And when you realize what makes you happy, then start to focus in on that and start letting go of the rest. Let it go. If it ain't making you happy, let it go. Including your grown kids. You have to divorce them sometime.
Let it go.
It's okay to love them. Uh-oh. That's my grown kid back there right now.
Quickly, if you are, I would love to give you a gift. If you go to info at joy.unlimited.com and say you were as Sister Spokesman, then we will send you, you'll be able to access a free radical self-care course, a little mini course that you can start doing some things for yourself. So just send us an email and we'll get it out to you, okay? It's info, I-N-F-O, at joy, J-O-I, unlimited.com. So just say you was a Sister Spokesman, tell us, you have to send us the email, we'll send it back to you, and you can get in, and you can do the course at your own pace.
Wonderful. Now, Joy's going to be around for a minute. She's back here in the Obama office, room 4003, with her book. And Brandon, you going to be around for a minute, my brother? You got to roll? Okay, we'll catch you.
But I'll make sure I leave what I'll do is I'll write my contact information back in here.
Fantastic. So, well, we can also put your contact information on our website.
Yep.
And then Trunella's going to be here because she got a booth over in the corner. So you still can catch our lovely panelists this afternoon, at least 2 of the 3. In the meantime, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. And here's what I want. While I get a picture with them, I want everybody to stand up and hug the person right next to you and give them some love.